Hello and welcome to Shannon Gardens. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So today I'm so excited about the project that I'm putting together, which is an indoor terrarium. Now I've done these in the past and I wanted to share with you guys the steps of putting those together. And I think that they're so much fun, particularly to do as a wintertime project when you aren't doing a lot of gardening outside. And it's something that you can do either yourself or you can do with your family and kind of create a little gardening space within your chosen enclosure. So with that, I wanted to share first the supplies that I have to put this together. And first we'll start with the container itself. So I have a glass container here. I would say it's about 8 to 9 inches in height and about 6 inches or so in diameter. And it does have the removable top. I will be doing an enclosed terrarium. So with that in mind, I chose plants that prefer humid environments and kind of damp soil. And so I will show you guys the plants that I chose. So the first plant I chose is the Tradescantia Nanook. And let me show that to you guys. It's so pretty with the green and light pink and purple leaves right there. And it adds a bit of height in my container. So we've got the Tradescantia Nanook here. And then next we have the Nerve plant. And I love the pretty veins in that plant on the leaves and the bright green color. So I think that that just adds a nice pop of green to my little enclosure. And then finally, I have the Tradescantia Pink Panther. And again, I'm playing off of that green and purple color. So you can see I'm kind of going with a bit of a green and purple theme. And this plant feels so neat. And it's actually lower growing and it's just very, very pretty. So I've got those 3 plants. And then as far as my supplies, I have these rocks that I'll be using for drainage. And I've had this for quite some time. I believe I got it at Home Depot, but I just have these rocks here. I have moss, which is right here. And as you can see, there's a lot of different colors that I can choose from. So I've got my moss that I'm gonna add to my display. And then I have my horticulture charcoal. And this is also going to help with any drainage or odors from my enclosed terrarium. Then I have my tongs right here. I can show you guys. And these are very helpful. As you start adding everything into your container, it can start getting a little tight, especially as you get closer to the end when you're adding any little figurines or your moss to go around the plants. Sometimes your hand is just a little too big to get everything set up correctly. So these come in very handy. And then there are all sorts of decorations that you can find online or maybe in nurseries, particularly the nurseries where you'll get your little plants for your terrariums. But I wanted to show you guys just a couple that I've collected over the years. So for example, I've got this mushroom and I've got several of those that I could add if I wanted to. Have crystal. There are all sorts of things. You can really, really go crazy with this and get all sorts of different decorations just depending on what kind of scene you would like to set up in your terrarium. I have a little pinwheel here and a little glow-in-the-dark dragonfly. The options are endless and you can really tailor it to how you want to decorate your terrarium. So I'm going to go ahead and move on and I will show you guys a close-up of putting the different layers of everything together and getting it set up. So one thing that I did want to mention before I go through the steps of putting the terrarium together is that when you are choosing your plants, you want to make sure that they have similar requirements. For example, I am doing an enclosed terrarium, and so I want to make sure that the plants that I'm adding in there like a humid environment. This is something that once it is set up and established, I actually will not have to really water at all. It will be its own little ecosystem and it does not need a lot of maintenance whatsoever. However, that's not something where I would add succulents into an enclosed terrarium. I would do more of an open terrarium if I was looking to make more of a succulent type of terrarium garden. So I did want to point that out and just make sure that you're keeping an eye out for plants that have similar requirements. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this put together. Okay, you guys, so I'm ready to start. I've got my gloves on. Here's my container. The first thing I'm going to start with are the decorative rocks. So I have my rocks here. I actually rinsed these because they were a bit dusty. So I'm just going to add these to the bottom of the container. And I'll probably add about a couple of inches. All right, so I've got those added and they're pretty nice, even layer. And that's just going to help with our drainage. So we've got our decorative rock at the bottom. Next, I am adding my horticulture charcoal to my container, probably about 1/4 of an inch. And that's just going to also help with the drainage and with any odor that might occur, particularly because this is an enclosed terrarium. So I'll add that now. Next, we've got our potting soil. So I'm going to add about 2 to 3 inches of potting soil. I'll put some in here first, and then I will set up my plants, and then I will place more potting soil around there. You guys, so I've just been placing my plants in here, utilizing these tongs, which have really come in very handy. When you have such a small space, it's so handy to put these in with the tongs and kind of situate them the way that you want. I'm trying to not touch the sides with my plants. And then I'm going to use this little brush here and just brush off some of this dirt that I've gotten on the leaves. So I'll do that now. So now we're going to add some of our moss. And I think I'm going to choose this bright green here and just kind of tuck it in with my tongs. Now, you certainly don't only have to use moss to top off your terrarium. You can use sand or decorative rock, moss, or any kind of decor that you want to put in. Now would be the time to go ahead and add that to your terrarium. You guys, so I have finished and I ended up not adding any kind of decoration to the top besides just the purple and the bright green moss. I actually am very happy with that and decided not to add anything else. So I really like it. And once it's established, it's so easy to maintain. I just have had so much fun with creating terrariums in the past, and I'm very excited about this new one. Let me try to show you guys from the outside here, but it's a little harder to see with the glass. But again, just really like that coloration. And I think it's such a fun project to do, particularly in the wintertime when we're inside so much more and we can bring the gardening inside. So one thing that I did want to mention when watering the plants is that you want to be very careful not to overwater your terrarium. So I have a mister that I use to water the plants in the terrarium, and I try to get it on the soil as much as possible and not on the leaves, and definitely do not oversaturate it. And then once it gets established, I've found with my enclosed terrariums, they really do establish their own ecosystem and they recycle that water. And so then once it's established, my watering has been to a minimum. I will check my terrarium and make sure that it doesn't need water, but a lot of the times it is humid in there and it is damp, not oversaturated, and I just really haven't had to do much to it. I will take the top off from time to time and just kind of let it air out, but it really has been its own self-sustaining system for the most part. And I'm just checking on it every now and again to make sure everything is working properly and that everything looks good and is thriving in there. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really enjoyed putting together the terrarium today, and I'm so excited with the way it turned out. So thank you so much again. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, happy gardening and goodbye.